Whew. I read Kindred by Octavia E. Butler, which is ridiculous because it's like I started reading this right before February started. Kind of give me a head start because I have other books that I want to read and I want to be able to read everything in this short month that we get, and this book isn't that long, and it's like it's almost the end of February and I just finished the book. I should have finished this a lot. What is it now? Like, I finished this on the 22nd. I finished this on the 21st and I updated my Goodreads on the 22nd. Ridiculous. Either way, I finished the book. I read it and I don't know if it's like, I think the time traveling thing kind of, I wouldn't say threw me off. I know it was going to be about slavery and there was going to be time traveling back to that time period. So I know it's going to still be heavy, but I figured like, oh, you know, the time traveling is still going to kind of like balance it out a little bit, give it a little levity. Not really. The time travel didn't do much of that. I mean, she gave us like breaks, but time traveling was just still, she was just a terrible, like she was mean. She was still terrible. Like, I almost want to say she like exacerbated like the experience of reading a book that involves slavery. It was a lot. It was a lot. I kind of knew it was going to be a lot, but it's a lot. It was a lot. It's slavery. I mean, it is what it is. I enjoyed Dana. I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed Alice. Rufus, I ain't gonna lie, in the beginning of the book, when I started reading, I was like, oh, you know, she's gonna save, I don't know. Because how I felt like in the beginning of the book going in, when she had to like save Rufus, and Dana's like, yo, I'm gonna try to save him. I realized that he's like my ancestor. I have to make sure that he lives so that I'll be able to live and my lineage will be able to live. As I got like midway through the book, I'm like, maybe you don't need to try and save him. Maybe there's another way, you know, because I felt, let me tell you this. I feel like when Alice was going to run away with that man, maybe she should have just killed Rufus. She should, well, not killed him. What am I saying? Maybe Dana should have just let Rufus die. Because it's just like, no, there was no getting through to him. Like, she should have just let Rufus die. I'm sorry. She should just let Rufus die because, and then chances are she would have still been born anyway, but to Alice, and I forgot what his name is, that she was, that Alice was running away with. Maybe she might not have ended up with Kevin, but at the end of the day, she would have still lived. Like, she would have still lived. She would just look different. She might have had a different life maybe, but things might have been different and it might have been better without Rufus. I just felt like, okay, the turning point was when she came back and she could have just left him to die. Left him to die, let that leg rot or whatever. I don't know, just leave him to die and just go back, find another way to get back home and don't try to save him because it was unnecessary. Like, I will say I loved Sarah. She was this mammy figure. She could have been written in this book as like the stereotype of a mammy, with just how Octavia E. Butler like wrote Sarah's character and just the humanity of her and just the love of who she is as a person. Like, I love that about the book. Like, that was one thing I really loved the most about it. I won't lie, there were a few times when I was just like, is Kevin gonna become a traitor? Like, is he gonna be a traitor to Dana, you know, and just like allegiance to his whiteness? But it really wasn't that bad. I was just still like, child, I don't know, girl. Rufus could have kicked rocks though. You know, I will say on how Rufus died, that whole scene, that climax to Rufus's death, I don't know. I think like having the prologue, how the prologue started, my expectations of what was going to happen, like how we were getting to the point of the prologue by the end of the book. I don't know, my expectations were up here and I felt like the book kind of didn't deliver that. That ending kind of just like killed it for me. Plus I felt like there were a few times in the book where I just felt like, I'm not sure I'm in love with like how it was how some of this writing was happening. I don't like that. I don't like how that was written. Maybe it's just me nitpicking, but I just didn't like it, you know. I don't know if this is Octavia E. Butler's like first book, so that might be why I may like, you know, it may not be. I don't think it's her first book. I think her first book was like called Survivor. I do think one of her earlier works, so I'm guessing that her further books are going to be even better than this, so I'm looking forward to those. But overall, I love the story. I love the writing. I love the straightforwardness of the writing. It was clear. I loved being in Dana's head. I liked being with Dana. I felt bad for her a lot. I mean, of course, because slavery and abuse of black bodies and slavery, period. Like, it was just, oh my gosh. And you really just got to live the experience. And that's something I realized about reading this with the time traveling experience. Like, you don't just get to be in the times of slavery, but it's just, you get an opportunity to kind of like step away from it. And I think that's probably why I felt like it was still going to be a bit lighter as a book to read about slavery, because I'm already kind of like stepping in and stepping out of this time period just by reading it, but also reading it through Dana, who's not from that time period, who's just getting pulled into it. You kind of getting the opportunity to still have a buffer of, I'm stepping into slavery, but I'm like still stepping back out. Not completely, because at the end of the day, we still live in this society, so we're not dealing with as bad as slavery is, but also it's still bad. It's still kind of not the best right now, and it could be better, very much better. I know there are a lot of deeper themes and a lot of deeper things that have really been tackled in this book that, like, in reading it, like this first time, I like know it's there, I could sense it's there, but I didn't really hold on to it. So it's like I feel like on a second reread it's really where I can dissect deeper themes. I know I could find so much more like reading it a second time. Cause I could tell that Octavia has done a lot of research going into this book. Like there's like stuff in this book where it's just like, I did not realize that was going on. I didn't realize this is what was happening in the time of slavery. Like, I know it was bad, but good grief. This is oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, this is whew, child. Just like Dana girl, I felt for you, sis. Like this wow. Wow. It was It was a lot. It was a lot. I definitely do need to reread this, but I'm so glad I finally read it, and I'm looking forward to reading more Octavia E. Butler because I think she's a great writer. I loved her imagination for writing this book, tackling time travel and slavery, and putting those together and making that, and took it there. So thank you for spending your time with me, and I'm out this bitch like Fleek.